Hi guys, today I am going to discuss about soil. Soil comes from the Latin word solum. The process of soil formation is known as petrogenesis. It takes weathering of rocks to form soil, and petrogenesis is a very slow and gradual process. It mainly takes thousands of years for a soil to form. Soil is mainly formed through weathering of rocks and parent materials. Now let us come to the definition of soil. Soil is the uppermost powdery layer of the earth's crust, which contain mineral matter, organic matter, and essential nutrients that is sustainable for plant growth and development. We can also have the definition like this: soil is the uppermost powdery layer of the earth's crust, which is sustainable for plant growth and development. It is rich in organic matter and mineral matter and essential plant nutrients. Well, now let us come to the DokuChap definition of soil. According to the DokuChap definition of soil, soil is the natural dynamic body or is the uppermost loose layer of the earth's crust. We can also have the definition like this: soil is a natural dynamic body sustainable to plant growth and development. Soil is a natural dynamic body found on the earth's crust that is sustainable to plant growth and development. These are the so many definitions we can have about soil. The study of soil is known as pedology. It is divided into two categories. One is edapology and the other is normal pedology. Pedology is the study of origin and formation and classification of the soil. And edapology is the study of soil in relation to plant growth and development. Thus, if we consider the botanical aspects of soil or the botanical importance of soil, then we have to study edapology over there. Again, I am clearing: pedology is the study of origin, description and classification of soil, while edapology is the study of soil in relation to plant growth and development. The vertical section of the soil is known as soil profile. It can be divided into 5 distinct layers called horizons. They are mainly A horizon, O horizon, E horizon, B horizon and C horizon. While A and O horizon are rich in organic matter and mineral matter, while B horizon and E horizon are the site of elevation and illuvation, while C horizon consists of bedrocks and parent materials, or the unconsolidated parts of the soil. Now let us come to the soil composition or the components of the soil. Mainly soil contains soil water, soil air, soil mineral matter and soil organic matter. Now let's come to the soil water. Soil water is nothing but the amount of water which is held between the soil particles by the means of different forces of interaction such as capillary action, force of cohesion and adhesion, etc. Various types of soil water includes hygroscopic water, gravitational water, chemically bounded water and capillary water. Now let's discuss these types of soil water one by one. Hygroscopic water: it is a thin film of water that surrounds the soil particles by the means of hygroscopic action, and this type of water is unavailable to the plants, thus falls under the Achard category. Now a point to be noted: Achard is the total amount of water present in the soil which is unavailable to the plants. Cassard is the total amount of water present in the soil which is only available to the plants, and the capillary water only falls under the Cassard portion. And the Hollard is the total amount of water available in the soil which includes both the availability and non-availability portion. Clear? Now let us consider the other types of soil water. Now let us move to the gravitational water. It is a type of water that percolates to the soil particles and reaches the water table due to gravitational force of attraction. This is directly proportional to the porosity of the soil or the number of soil pores. More is the number of soil pores, greater is the percolation rate and greater is the amount of the gravitational water. This water is also unavailable to the plants because most of the time plant root cannot reach such level of the water table where gravitational water are found. Now let us come to the chemically bounded water. It is the thin film of water that is chemically bounded to the soil particles by the means of chemical potential. Now let's come to the last and the available part of water, that is capillary water. It is the amount of soil water that is held in between the soil particles by the means of capillary action. It is the only amount of soil water which is available to the plants and is absorbable by plants' root by the process of endosmosis. Now you guys will ask, what is endosmosis? Endosmosis is the process of entry of water into the roots from the soil. Now let's clear what is osmosis. It is the flow of water molecular particles or solvent molecular particles from a region of higher concentration to a region of their lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. It is just a passive diffusion of water. Okay, osmosis is the flow of osmosis is the flow of water molecular particles or solvent molecular particles from a region of their higher concentration to a region of their lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. A semi-permeable membrane is must required for a osmosis to act. Now root pressure is also essential for absorption of soil water. Root pressure is the amount of hydrostatic pressure which is developed in the cortical cells of the roots due to cell-to-cell osmosis, due to alternate turgidity and flaccidity between the root cells and the cortical cells, which forces the water into the xylem. Endosmosis induces turgidity in the cells, while exosmosis induces plasmolysis or shrinkage of the cell. Now endosmosis is the entry of water into the cell or a system through from a surrounding hypotonic medium through a semi-permeable membrane, and exosmosis is the outflow of water from a cell or a system to a surrounding hypertonic medium from a cell or a system. Now let us come to the other part of the soil, that is soil air. Soil air is the amount of air or the gases that is available in the soil and held between the soil particles. Again, soil air depends upon various factors such as soil aeration, soil porosity, soil texture, soil structure, etc. The amount of oxygen present in the soil is less as compared to the amount of oxygen present in the atmosphere. The amount of carbon dioxide present in the soil is higher as compared to the amount of carbon dioxide present in the Earth's atmosphere. Soil temperature is measured with the help of soil thermograph. Now let's come to the soil mineral matter. Soil mineral matter includes the essential plant nutrients that are found in the soil. Essential plant nutrients includes macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients can be further divided into primary nutrients and secondary nutrients. I couldn't tell about another nutrient, that is basic nutrient. Basic nutrient includes the carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Primary nutrient includes NPK, that is nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus, while secondary nutrients includes calcium, magnesium and sulfur. Got it, guys? Now the micronutrients includes iron, zinc, molybdenum, chromium, chlorine, boron, nickel, etc. And some others are non-essential elements which are required in trace quantities such as vanadium and all. The main mineral matter helps in enriching the soil fertility and are useful for plant growth and development and are useful for carrying out the proper metabolic activities of the plants. Got it? Now soil organic matter. Soil organic matter is mainly formed due to decaying of the dead remains of plants and animals by microbial action. The dead remains of plants and animals or plant debris or farm wastes, etc. undergoes microbial degradation or microbial decomposition to enrich the soil with soil organic matter. Humus is an example of soil organic colloid which have high NPK content and their carbon nitrogen ratio is 10:1. So this is the introductory part about soil. Thank you, guys. This is my first video, so if any mistake is there, So please you can give me suggestion for improvisations.